Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our review of not Batman, the Batman, and not the 2004 TV show. We're talking about the 2022 film starring Mr. Robert Pattinson,
AKA Vengeance.
a.k.a. was a vampire, now's a bat.
At what point did we decide playing a vampire was ridiculous, but playing Batman is awesome?
Well, I don't think the idea of playing a vampire inherently is ridiculous. I mean, you got Sir Christopher Lee played Dracula.
Good point.
It's just...
It just took this vampire 14 years to turn into a bat, so it's not a very good one.
It took him 14 years to grow out of his Twilight stigma.
It makes me think of Hotel Transylvania, where Dracula looks at like the footage of the fake Twilight. And he says, "This is how our people are represented."
See, but Robert Pattinson's good as Batman.
He is good at that.
Yeah, he really was.
He's a good actor. People just gave him crappy material.
Yeah,
You can't help
except for
copyright.
Tenet, he was pretty good in Tenet.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
he was good in
that
that.
didn't have crappy writing.
Yeah.
Debatable.
Oh my gosh!
Why
It's
do
one
we
of his weaker movies.
I'll admit it wasn't, but it wasn't inherently bad writing.
If we're going to focus on Christopher Nolan, we need to focus on Batman.
That's a good turnaround. I like that.
How do we get
Nice
sidetracked
segue.
so easily?
Listen to me, the Batman.
Yes, just
Very compelling argument.
2 words. The Batman.
I mean, we could probably cut it right there. This movie is like one of the biggest in theaters right now, isn't it? If I recall the...
In terms of films that have had success post-pandemic, this has the record of being the second highest, highest grossing weekend for its opening. Spider-Man No Way Home obviously had number
yeah.
1 at like 200-something million. And the Batman, I think, domestically earned somewhere close to like 150 million domestically, which is still pretty good.
I thought it was like 154.
Something like that.
That's still a pretty big check.
Mm-hmm. And internationally, of course, it made a lot of money too. But
Oh,
And I read somewhere that the actual production cost was like $40 million. Is that right?
oh, heck no.
They
That'd
made
be
that
anywhere
money
else.
for. I was gonna say they'd have to spend a lot more than $40 million on the production.
There's no way for a 3-hour movie this good. There's no way that budget was only $40 million.
I mean,
have to-
the sets weren't that complicated. So,
Yeah, I mean,
They did flood a basement to get that flare shot at the end.
they did flood the basement.
that's a good shot.
It really was such a
But
cool.
like half the other stuff was just like in regular, oh, this is a house. Oh, this is a club.
True, but they also had to pay for
Extras.
multiple car wrecks, extras, fight scenes, guns.
Hey, the
All
car wrecks was
costume-
only one scene, so
Robert Pattinson's salary alone was like $3 million.
There's also that.
yeah.
Arguably the coolest scene in the whole movie, flipping that car.
Arguably. My take will definitely go for the first few minutes. The first
That,
few
I was gonna
minutes
say,
of the
when
movie
you
is
can
stunning.
you can argue with me about. There's 3 scenes I was like, oh my goodness.
This is
It was funny because me and Jared went and saw it next to each other, and the whole movie, me and him were like, oh my, what? Yes.
We should all clarify that unlike our Uncharted video where, well, Michael wasn't here. Welcome, Michael.
hello.
But, me, Jared, and Justin, we're all kind of like memeing on that movie the whole time. All of us legitimately like this movie. At least like it.
Yeah.
At least.
This one
Absolutely.
was really good. I'm proud of this movie. I was really hyped for it. You remember in that first trailer release?
Mhm.
Like the very, very first one that said it was going to release last year?
Mm-hmm.
I had to watch that trailer like 5 times because I watched it once and thought, this is really good. And you know it's going to be good when you just want to watch the trailer over and over. So when this movie actually fully dropped in theaters, I was so hyped to see it. So, yeah,
And it was worth the wait, in my opinion.
it really was.
Yes.
I think just from the ground up, it was conceived very well.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell that this wasn't like some kind of studio that was cobbling together IP just for the sake of having something in their release schedule.
So it's not a typical DC movie, is what you're saying.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of which, at the beginning of this movie, this is a little sidetrack, but I'm going to bring it back. When they played the DC, The World Needs Heroes,
Yes! I was thinking about this exact thing.
So they played that. I was like, okay, Black Adam, Aquaman, Flash movie, Michael Keaton, But then they show Robert Pattinson's movie, and I was like, so clearly they're trying to ride the coattails of how successful this Batman movie is going to be. But the reason that it makes me laugh is because the Batman movie is not going to have anything to do with the other ones at all.
Not only that, it's
just wait for the Flash movie. They'll do a Flashpoint and retcon everything into being in this universe.
No, they should not.
They can. Like, one of the nice things about this movie was how grounded it was.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't grounded in the same way that the Christopher Nolan movies were.
Oh, not even close.
Because Christopher Nolan movies felt like they were just taking place in our world, in Chicago, essentially, which they were actually filmed in. So.
Right, yeah.
Pittsburgh, I think, too.
But this movie felt like Gotham was a real place. You had the weird Gothic architecture. You had random train rails going through places. You had old brick buildings that had really ancient-looking cobblework out front, but then they had big neon electric modern signs grappled to them. It felt like it was its own distinct place, but it felt very real in how it was doing it. Even down to elements of the costume, how he was just wearing regular boots.
That's right, yeah.
With his armored suit, he still just got regular boots on.
Yeah, it felt like, boots you would wear just in a rainstorm or something. Just, he walks in and there's that money shot of the film introducing him where he just walks into the crime scene like that.
Yeah.
Okay, please don't beat up.
Okay, so listen to me. I told Jared after this movie, I was like, look, I like that this Batman is new to everything, but my goodness, he's got to figure out how to walk around more silently.
Oh,
but that's clumping the boots the whole movie long.
But that's such a good impact.
I know
it
it
shows how he just intimidates people before he even gets there.
Yeah, I was saying it as a joke, but he needs I compared it to Batman from the Arkham games because those are my favorite. And in the game, he doesn't walk at all. You can't hardly hear him unless he's running. So this is really, which I really liked about this movie, is it's a new Batman. He doesn't have everything figured out.
He has a lot.
He has a lot to learn. He doesn't have the Batmobile at the beginning of the movie, which I thought was awesome. Mm-hmm. He's riding around with a motorcycle and his stuff in his backpack. That I thought was so dope. He's walking around, he's like, I'm super sleuth, but I have to be quiet and blend in with the populace. So he's basically just Robert Pattinson with eyeliner with the helmet on, and then he has all of his bat gear in his backpack, which I thought was awesome.
It's cool.
It does raise the question, though, of how long does it take for him to change into that? Because I don't think a mugging is going to last you 12 minutes to strap on all that armor.
Well, he's got a speedrun record. He's one of those quick changers that shows up in Las Vegas.
All right.
You can't tell me that Batman thought, well, I'm going to have to be able to change quickly, and he didn't spend days practicing how to do it in a minute.
Good point.
Yeah, this is Batman.
This is Batman.
Yeah.
As kind of his thing.
As much as he doesn't know everything now, he has some things. He has, by the way, the gadgets in this movie were perfect.
I love the touch of him having a contact lens surveillance cameras.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
This is such a detail-oriented film in general, but having Batman recording in a diary.
I was just about to say the journal was
recording
awesome.
notes, and he's keeping recordings on his eye contacts. This is a Batman who is paying attention to his surroundings. He doesn't just automatically figure things out. He actually studies it.
I thought that was awesome. I loved the journal part. The fact that it's bookended, the beginning of this movie is him writing in his journal, and the end is him writing in the journal. Perfect. Mm-hmm. Loved it.
We'll eventually circle back to that because what you just said kind of points to, I think, why this film really works from a thematic perspective, but a character perspective too. But I did kind of want to touch on a little bit more about what you guys were saying about this movie being grounded. When those initial trailers came out, like Michael was talking about, I thought, and I really, really hoped that this movie would be like the superhero version of Seven, the David Fincher movie. I'm not sure if any of you guys have seen it.
I haven't watched it. I know what it is.
Ring a bell,
it's a serial killer movie. It's a little above your pay grade, but it's creepy.
I'm an adult.
No. that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's rated R and it's kind of creepy and weird.
I've watched rated R movies.
It's rough.
Yeah. Like, it's really disturbing and rough. Yeah.
But the Batman is basically a PG-13 movie, or a PG-13 version of that film, in the sense that, like, it basically has the same exact type of tone where the city is just the biggest pit that you could possibly imagine.
You'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
No, I mean, really, though. And, like,
It really is, and it's meant to be.
It's
Gotham
meant to be.
is
That's
supposed to be.
Gotham is...
and
Why do people still live there?
And a big thing that made 7 work for me is because that city in that movie felt like a place that was irredeemable. So much so that you don't even know the name of the city throughout the whole entire film, but you know that it's a place that's like, you know, the worst that like New York City or Detroit ever could be. And the Batman feels the same exact way. And it also has that same exact clinical approach and truly sinister, horrific approach to how we witness all of these murders happen. That opening scene, oh,
Dude.
So it was funny because I remember thinking, and I was like, "Geez, this scene is really heavy. When is this gonna end?" And then I found out that the whole movie was like that, where it's like, "Geez, it's like Ant-Man when he's like, I'm talking too long. I'm shaking your hand too long." That's not bad, because at the first it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and then I warmed up to it. Because with each scene you get to see all the details and everything that Matt Reeves has to say, and what Batman is thinking, and what Jim Gordon is thinking, and what the Riddler is thinking, and what Catwoman is thinking, all that stuff.
The movie takes its time. It really does. In every single scene, maybe it could be said that it goes a little bit too long in a lot of places.
I really like it a lot more. I liked it a lot more going through the movie.
But in that, it definitely did not feel hurried at all. Like, one of the criticisms that we've had with movies in the past is that they just bounce from plot point to plot point to plot point. That did not feel like it was the case. It almost felt like we were having an investigation along with Batman. Like, this wasn't a big save the world thing. He was trying to solve a single related case throughout the entire movie. And it just felt like a big, long, arduous, grinding case.
Which leads into all the journals and details you took, because that helps it feel like this big, huge case he's having to unwind every single facet of. So, I did not see the movie with these fine gentlemen. I saw it with a couple of buddies of mine from high school.
Well, I mean, I saw it with my wife, so I wasn't with them either. So.
Oh, okay. But we were talking about it on the ride back to my house, and we said, and one of my buddies, his name's Hiram, he said, I kind of wish it was shorter, because 3 hours is a long time, but at the same time, can't think of anything that you can cut. Like, there's not a lot of fat on this movie.
I could think of plenty.
There's a couple things you probably could cut out for a little extra, but
Wow.
it added to the overall.
I can't think of off the top of my
I
head.
think it added to the overall flavor of the movie, so I'm not complaining.
You could remove the entire Catwoman arc without problem.
Oh my god!
No, seriously, you could. Everything that Catwoman does in the movie is something that Bruce could have done the entire time. Like, she wasn't really needed in the entire movie.
Dang it, you're right.
That's fair, but I also really liked Zoe Kravitz.
Oh, she did a wonderful job.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not trying to say that. I loved her impact on the film. I'm just saying, like, if she was not even in this movie, the movie would not have changed at all.
The
I
other
think, yeah, maybe from like a plot standpoint, sure, they could have worked her out of it, but in talking about themes, I think she fits, but anyway.
Yeah,
sorry.
I was gonna say the other thing is Batman is like 2 years old, and I appreciate that it takes him, or like he kind of knows things, but it showed him doing detective work. Like there were some bits and pieces in like the Nolan movies, like with Dark Knight when he was piecing together the bullet to get the fingerprint.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was like 3 minutes. This movie is Batman going, okay, I gotta solve this dumb riddle. Or
Well, he solves those riddles in 30
Not-
seconds.
not dumb riddle,
And
but
it's
like
not 300 Riddler trophies.
no, but like he has to do detective work. Okay, well we know that this and this and this. He has to collaborate with Gordon when they're talking to the Penguin and doing that. By the way, them together, I really like Jeffrey Wright and Batman together. The entirely overused word, man, chief. Did he say bro? I can't remember if he said
I
bro
don't remember
or
bro,
dude.
but
I don't
I
recall.
do remember man after every sentence. Jim
Oh yeah,
made.
man, chief, and something else. I was like,
We gotta get out of here, man.
we gotta get you out of here, chief. He's awesome. I really liked him, but I was like, what's with all the man and the chief? Come on.
It's like,
Jim Gordon does look like a 40-year-old guy. He doesn't look like he's a newbie cop just trying to use man all the time.
Maybe he thinks the constant disappearing act has made him a little more familiar, so he's like, okay, you want to troll me by constantly, disappearing behind my back? I'm going to troll you by not treating you as this apex predator of Gotham you so desperately want to be.
Or the best one when he gets on the rooftop with the bat signal, and Batman has clearly been standing there in the shadow of the pillar the entire time. Like, who knows how long he's been standing right there. But after Jim Gordon walks past, he walks out of the shadow of the pillar. And it's...
By the way, I loved that about this movie. Him materializing out of shadows.
Oh my
A
goodness! Yes.
plus
That
work.
is just,
A plus work cinematography.
it is.
Robert Pattinson, the whole kit and caboodle.
Well, I think it's really impressive considering how dark the movie was, that they were able to distinguish all between the shadows that you can move in and just like... Because the movie was very dark in general.
Yes.
Well, now, do
Not
you mean in terms of thematics or the
Lighting.
actual light level?
I'm just
It's
talking
literally
like-
dark.
It's
Not,
literally...
not as dark as Solo. Hey.
If we're gonna go there,
We might as well bring up Game of Thrones Season 8.
Oh
Third
my
episode.
gosh, where they can't even see anything. Yeah.
the thing about the Batman that makes that work is because, like, the cinematographer knows how to expose all the lighting into the frame and the lens, to where, like, yeah, it's obviously, like, quote unquote, the darkest Batman movie that ever has been made, but
All the details are in sight. In
Yeah.
fact, the lights almost emphasize everything that's really important, including at one particular part of the movie where the light literally emphasizes what's important, and they bring him into the light, and boom.
Yeah.
Flare.
No.
No, when they
Oh, at
find
the beginning.
when they
No.
find
Cardinal Falcone.
when they find Falcone.
The whole clue is bring him into the light.
Oh, yes,
I forgot
yes.
about that. By the way, I love that the clues were all there from the very beginning of the movie. Like, if you've been paying attention, you probably could have solved it too. It's like daring you to solve the riddle yourself.
And it's funny because Justin and I speaking Spanish, like, I figured out the clue before Batman did, which made me feel pretty good about myself. I'll say that.
and then Penguin makes fun of him.
Oh, that is one
That
of the
was
best
hilarious.
scenes in the movie.
By the way, dude,
You two are the world's greatest detectives over here.
And you couldn't determine L versus law?
dude, the best Colin Farrell. My cousin's husband did a review of this movie. He has a YouTube channel too, but he was like,
I'll have to check that out.
they definitely have to nominate them for makeup for this movie. Because Colin Farrell did. I thought the whole movie, I was like, that's not Colin Farrell.
There's so many stories of people who are like, my dad loves Colin Farrell, but he didn't think that was Colin Farrell. I had to remind him and look
Dude,
it up
It
afterwards.
didn't even look like him, didn't sound like him. I thought it was a completely different person.
Well, when Colin Farrell talked about it on Hot Ones, he said he had to be in the makeup chair for like 4 hours just to put that stuff on him, and I'm like, I believe it.
Which
That
is
is
amazing
commitment.
work
They
for
ought
a
to get-
random mobster who's the B level, not even a
Seriously, he's not
A-level
even a main
character.
character. Not even a main bad guy.
Not even close. That is
Although-
commitment.
His involvement in the movie does lead to one of probably the coolest car chases ever filmed.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Although, the other cool thing about that part is when they reveal the Batmobile. The Batmobile comes out of the dark, man. Just like Batman. And did you see the blue fire and it's like,
And the rumble.
Oh
yeah.
yes.
like just like the loud boots. Like
It's
Bat-
meant to
Batman
scare the
loves
crap out
the intimidation factor.
it's just like Darth Vader. Just like in Rogue One.
It's just like Rogue
Turns off
One. You
every-
hear the breathing, then you see the lightsaber.
Yeah, Darth
and you know,
Vader had to
oh,
be a drama queen about it and turn off all of his air supply just so he could do that cool
and hold
entrance.
his breath.
Funny you should mention Rogue One. The same cinematographer worked on both movies.
And score.
That's
The guy,
crazy.
the same music guy, Michael Giacchino, did
There you
both
go.
Michael
movies.
Giacchino.
Dude,
That's the winning
Michael
formula,
Giacchino,
everybody.
he has done Ratatouille, The Incredibles, Spider-Man: Homecoming, and I think the other two home
He's done a
trilogies.
whole lot of Pixar and Disney movies.
And now he's doing Batman. Like, this man just knows how to compose for everything. None of those movie soundtracks sound at all alike. Like, you could play some of John Williams stuff, and you can kind of hear a John Williams fingerprint.
French horns.
A little bit. Yeah, that's probably it. But none of these movies sound alike.
The bassoon.
Don't forget.
French horns.
Not
What are you
the-
talking about?
not the mighty
Literally, almost every John Williams soundtrack has some element of French horns. Just you wait for the Kenobi show, and there'll be French horns in the
man.
beginning of it.
Man.
Okay.
But,
That's a whole different discussion.
Michael Giacchino's music, though.
That's
I was gonna say
something else.
Right.
One of the best movie soundtracks we've had. Probably, like,
In a while.
Star Wars is good, but, like, I'm trying to think of movie soundtracks that I really like. New Hope is one. Lord of the Rings series.
Lord
all
of
their
the Rings,
movies are,
yeah.
all their songs are really good. Batman's got to be up there. The Dark Knight and Batman Begins. There's not a whole lot of
Incredibles.
competition.
I really like the Incredibles soundtrack.
Well, yeah, Michael Giacchino did that one too, and it's awesome. I
Yeah.
think what makes a musical score great is when you can turn off. Basically, like, if you listen to the music while looking at the images, but you had no dialogue or no sound effects, just that music, and it's just as effective at telling the story, that's what a good musical score does. When I was watching this with Amber, I thought when we were watching the scene where Batman interrupts Catwoman's first burglary scene, I thought to myself, I could easily watch this whole movie with just the soundtrack and nothing else, and I would love it all the same.
There are some good lines in this movie, but I don't know. That's
Yeah.
an interesting point. That'd be kind
That
of
is
cool.
a good point. While we're speaking of good lines, remember the part where he has to fight his way out of that police station? Gordon meets him later. You know, you really could have pulled that punch.
Yeah!
I did.
Which, by the way,
What a freaking Batman line! Like,
all of the bad takes on Twitter that said this movie had no humor,
you
those
know,
people don't have a sense of humor.
Did you watch?
It's because they're looking for Marvel quips.
Yeah, they're
Did you watch him
these are
looking
not-
at people? That was the best part of the movie.
There weren't
These
like
are-
Marvel quips in this. This was very much humor that was a little bit more understated. Like
Yes.
you had all the lines with the Penguin.
It's not
You
a,
had
Yeah.
It's not an MCU movie.
you had how generally awkward Batman was around everyone.
Just how awkward he is around, like, everybody.
Like even as Bruce Wayne, he's
You got
like
a lot of
standing there
cats.
glaring at people, and it's just
Remember when he's walking at the bad guy? And
he's
just like,
walking after Falcone like without any subtlety at all. He's like practically marching Batman style towards him.
giving him the angry face too. He's like,
Or,
And it's like, Bruce, come on, you need to actually figure out how to be a socialite, bud.
yeah.
You've been at this for 2 years.
and Bruce finds the morbid humor behind Riddler's clues.
Thumb drive.
Yeah. Like,
That
that's
was-
funny!
that
I
was
should
one-
not have laughed at that,
was
as
one
hard
of
as
the
I
best
did.
jokes in the whole movie. And Jared elbowed me, and he was like, "That's hilarious."
I should not have laughed at that line as hard as I did.
Why? It was funny.
Because
It's
it's a
hilarious.
man's
Disturbing, but yeah.
It's a man's
hilarious.
thumb. That's kind of messed up.
You laugh at the situation.
But I still laugh at it.
Which
It's
I think,
hilarious.
I think that makes humor better when, like, the situation you're in, like, enhances, like, the mood of the line you're hearing. When it's just like, you know, if it's just one random line that's thrown in there to get like a ha-ha moment, that's different. But
Shang-Chi.
Leave
I
Shang-Chi.
like Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Leave Shang-Chi
Well,
alone.
yeah, but remember the part in the airplane when he's telling his backstory and then they get interrupted by the airport lady? And there's that, like, 3-second pause where you can tell that's where the audience is supposed to laugh like a crappy sitcom? That's
suppose so.
what I'm thinking of. There's none of that here, and I love it.
That is a valid point.
Leave Shang-Chi alone.
No, I liked that movie, but I don't like that little part. Those few seconds, I did not like. The rest of that movie,
Or like
It's great.
Or like Eternals with the whole IKEA scene.
I didn't watch Eternal.
I never watched it.
Oh, I'm
I
glad you
didn't
did.
care
But
enough.
instead, we get Colin Farrell waddling like a penguin because Batman and Jim Gordon drove off with him tied
Yes,
up.
dude, amazing.
I was like,
Such a little detail. It's just there in the back. If you don't even see it, you won't get it. But it's like he's waddling like a penguin.
Yeah, I saw that, and I leaned over to my other friend, and I was like, did you notice he's waddling like a penguin? And you could hear us, like, both start to die of laughter.
The best part of the movie was him looking sideways at people. Like, are you an idiot? Of course that's the way that it is.
Right. I mean, it's also funny, too, when, like, you know, he thinks that he wrecked the Batmobile. He's like, ah, I got you! I got you!
I got you!
And there's the money shot of Colin Farrell, like, oh no.
Oh
no.
He's like Green Goblin in the first Spider-Man. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in danger.
I'm so glad that with that big money shot that you're talking about, with the crash, with the car flipping over, that they ended before Batman reached the car. Because once they did, probably one of the funniest scenes in the movie is when
bending
Batman
over
is
looking at him.
awkwardly staring through the window at Colin Farrell.
Dude,
For like 5 to 10 seconds.
Like Woody from Toy Story.
Yep. Hello!
the other funny part is when they're in Selena Kyle's apartment, he's like, you have a thing for cats. You got a lot of cats.
He's just an awkward kid.
Yeah, he really is. Bruce Wayne has no social skill.
Which is perfect for this movie. This is not about Bruce Wayne. Like this
Batman.
The Christopher Nolan movies were all about how Bruce Wayne had to make the decision to become Batman and his choices and how that affected his whole life. This movie, Bruce Wayne, is absolutely like a secondary, even tertiary character. Like, he is not important.
He gets, 3 scenes as Bruce Wayne where he's not Batman without the suit. Like, you can tell he's Bruce Wayne.
With Alfred.
Yeah.
Poor Andy Serkis. His cuts for this movie or his scenes for this movie totaled 1 day of shooting or 3 days of shooting.
Yeah, one of those involved getting blown up, so...
And the other one involved getting strapped up to a hospital bed. I'd say it was worth it.
It did add up to one of the most emotionally impactful scenes in the movie, which was great. Him and Bruce were talking.
Which is probably why he needed to be in the movie, because he's a good actor. But I just remember thinking, oh, look, Alfred's in this movie.
But it totally makes sense to me that this is not just a solitary one-off movie. This is something that's planned for multiple films.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. But
I really hope
having
Mr. Freeze.
Having an awkward Bruce and an Alfred that's barely in the movie, that totally sets up for more impact from them in the next movie. We've gotten introductions now. Now we can have them develop as characters more in the next.
Which it's funny because they're not homies. Usually in the comics or in the show, Alfred's like Batman's right-hand man, and in this movie, Bruce is like, "Get out of here, Alfred. I'm doing Batman by myself.
Leave me alone."
He just delivers them cold food, and it's like, yeah, it's been waiting for you. Have fun.
Yeah, why don't you have a shower and some fresh berries I picked?
I'll go meet with the board of Wayne Enterprises for you. Okay, Alfred.
No, he's like, well, you didn't go meet with the board, so the investors and analysts are coming here. Get dressed.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say this, though. One thing that I was thinking about when I was thinking about this movie, they didn't have him do the voice. It was literally just his voice, which I was like, huh.
I think it was a touch deeper pitched, but...
Well, yeah, but you can understand what he's saying. That doesn't sound like he's gargling marbles.
Where is the trigger? Where is the voice modulation?
Yes.
Where's the trigger? You can't do racism.
I could hear everything very clearly. The sound design in this movie was phenomenal.
It really was.
It was very strong.
Dude, speaking of punches, okay, I need to comment on this. The fight scenes in this movie, I really, really liked them. And I feel like I'm a fairly qualified person because I'm an amateur martial artist myself.
Black belt!
Yes, I am.
Who said that?
That's still an amateur level, just trust me. But I watch these fight scenes. Yes, it is amateur.
Okay, let him talk.
But I watch these fight scenes, and I'm going into, okay, is this... And I see, okay, gets the block, gets a hold of him, couple of strikes, he's down, turn to the next guy. And they point guns at him, grab the gun, he has a firm hold on it, point it away from him, so there's no chance of him getting shot before he takes him out. I notice little details like that, and I can tell, yes, this is not just stupid movie fisticuffs. There is actual real fight concepts in here, which lends the credibility of Batman being an excellent fighter.
Though it also had the realism of him being a novice even in this, because he got hit a lot.
Yeah, he got the snot kicked out of him.
Also, he took bullets like a baller.
That metal sheet is made out of adamantium or something. His
That
chest
sucker is made out of nth metal, I swear, because you don't just
But the funniest thing is that his hood is made out of, like, leather. Like, that's not going to stop a bullet, Bruce.
That's not going to stop a punch to the head.
I will say that one of the coolest things, though, is him just eating bullets.
Except for the shotgun blast.
No, well, I mean,
that
was different. But
he got
like,
chumped by that.
But when in the beginning fight scene, when that guy shoots him and it just ting, I was like, oh!
And the best, it did get a little bit silly when he's in Carmine Falcone's lair and he's just eating machine gun fire directly.
That was such a cool shot, though.
It's so cool, but it's
awesome.
so dumb at the same time.
Oh my gosh. But that was awesome, though. The cinematography of that part alone was amazing.
One more thing, the part you're talking about where he shoots him, it pings, and he has that like second where he turns and looks at that thug like, you did not just do that, before pitting him up against the wall and tasing him.
Taser hand.
Like, I love that you could tell Bruce did not enjoy that.
Yeah.
And he is all messed up. When he does the standard superhero shirtless scene, he's covered in scars and bruises, and he looks gross, like, because he's been getting fisticuffs all night.
He's been
for years
by people. And he looked like an emo weirdo that never sleeps. He had dark circles under his eyes,
long black hair,
barely
greasy and unwashed.
Probably doesn't take a shower ever.
Yeah, he has to shower like once a month.
Speaking of appearances, I have to say that probably one of the best appearances in the entire movie was the Riddler. He was extremely fitting for his role as this creepy, kind of weird, like, you take one look at him as the actor himself, and you're like, yeah, he totally looks like a serial killer.
Paul Dano, a freaking weird dude. I liked him in this movie, but Paul Dano weirds me out, man. Even when he's acting normal, he's a weirdo.
I mean, that just lends to better villain, because this Riddler is clearly more whacked in the head than usual.
Yeah, but
he just gets typecast as weirdos in movies.
Yeah,
there's also that.
His appearance lends to it, so
he's made a lot of money by looking weird, man.
Yeah, he's great at it.
But now that we have broached the Riddler, I really like this take on the Riddler, because if you know him from stuff like the Arkham games, where he's just a dork who makes puzzles because he's mad that Batman's smarter than he is, whereas this one, where he's an outright serial killer who makes the puzzle just to, like, bring Gotham down into the pit one step at a time to truly destroy it. Like, this is a good take on the Riddler. And he doesn't see Batman and go, oh, you know, my murder soulmate, who I will surely prove I'm smarter than. He sees him and goes, oh, that's just another piece of the chessboard I can play with. Which is how the genius that Riddler says he is would act. I love this Riddler.
So a question for you. I've seen 50-50 answers on this. Does the Riddler know that Batman is Bruce Wayne? I have seen people say yes, I've seen people say no, and both have evidence going for their answers.
I think he does.
Isn't there that whole scene in the prison where he's basically saying that he knows he's Bruce Wayne?
Yeah, I thought
but a lot of people are saying that because he thinks Batman, like, his whole motivation behind getting Batman involved is because he thinks Batman's targeting the corrupt as well. Which he is, but he thinks Batman is his partner in crime, like you were saying. That's why he was doing what he was doing. And so when he was talking about Bruce Wayne, that's the one person they weren't able to get together. So some people say that he does not know that Bruce is Batman. But some people say that he knows full well, but he was only playing it off for the cameras.
Well, here's the thing. That raises the question. Did Riddler even care?
Well, he cared a lot about killing Bruce Wayne. There's whole posters just for that in his lair.
But then he also drops, but people don't always want to unmask you, but that's the thing. This Batman is the real face. Bruce Wayne is just the mask.
Which is part of why he wouldn't care about
Bruce
revealing him, but him knowing who Batman is a
that's a really interesting question.
That did not dawn on me.
I thought that I had an answer to, and now I do not, because I'm going to have to think about it some more.
That's a really good thought you got there, Jared. Well done.
No, I've just seen some people with different answers on it.
Your question does point to, I think, what makes this movie so thematically resonant, though, as a Batman film. Because originally, when we finished this movie, my instant gut reaction was like, okay, so, it's a really good movie, but I don't really feel like the characterization was probably as strong as other movies. Batman movies, I mean. But then I thought about it some more, and it's like, well, so we've already established in this video that obviously Bruce Wayne, he can't really distinguish himself between his Batman and his Bruce Wayne persona. It's the same person all the time, 24/7. But because of the approach that Batman has had to fighting crime, it's led to the Riddler and all of his social media, acolytes.
God. By the way, him having 500 Twitch followers,
that's one of the less realistic parts of this movie.
It almost feels like tacked on at the end.
That's
that whole scene, if the Riddler is so intent on just bringing down corruption, why is he so fixated on having his followers do a mass murder shootout after flooding the city?
Especially since
that's not going to remove corruption.
Common folk.
I mean, I guess by shooting the new mayor, that would remove some corruption, but they couldn't even do that. So,
the weirdest comic book name I've ever heard.
But again, it does relate to how there's that one scene where one of those cronies, when Batman is about to punch him to submission, he's like, "Why are you doing this?" He said, "I'm vengeance."
Which is why, Riddler thought he was vengeance too. He heard Batman saying this, and he's like, "Yes, I'm vengeance too. We're the same kind."
Mm-hmm. And then Batman realizes, oh, this is where I really do need to change.
I need to be more than vengeance.
I need to become a hero, which leads to the awesome, flare scene, but it also leads to his journal, the voiceover that describes his thoughts in the journal, him actually, helping people with search and rescue, getting them on stretchers at the end, and people actually reaching out to him as, a symbol of hope versus that scene in the beginning where the guy's like, "Don't hurt me."
But the guy is just as terrified of him as he was of the
gangsters. And so...
I mean, it's one guy taking out all those gangsters. I'd be more scared of Batman. Because not only is it the guy who picked apart all these fools like it was just, a light snack, he's dressed like a giant bat-clad bulletproof armor. That'd be terrifying.
And clunky boots.
Well, the boots were for intimidation, as we already established.
Clunky boots.
If I may, though, there's a whole other aspect of that leads into the reason why I'm really happy this movie took some very direct inspiration from Seven, because part of the point of that movie and why the serial killer in that movie does what he does is he targets people in that movie's city who live up to the standards of the 7 deadly sins, like envy, gluttony, lust, all that stuff. Literally every single grisly murder that he commits in that movie relates somehow back to that sin. And he's basically trying to expose corruption in that city by killing all these people and waking them to a sense of their own guilt or whatever. In a way, the Riddler's kind of enacting that same kind of, twisted method of trying to cleanse Gotham. But it has an opposite result, and I apologize, I'm kind of spoiling 7 at this point. He has an opposite effect that the villain of that movie does, where in 7, his ultimate goal, the final sin, which is wrath, is committed by the main character because he kills the serial killer. Brad Pitt's character kills the serial killer out of blind rage because that serial killer killed his wife and his unborn child.
Jeez.
Whereas in the Batman, Batman has an opportunity to become this symbol of hatred and violence and, trying to resolve things that way. But he ends up doing the opposite of what the Riddler wants. And I think that makes Batman's journey in this movie so remarkable and so satisfying. Mm-hmm. Because he realizes the error of his ways and that he certainly could do this much better going forward. He could forge a better relationship with Alfred. He could be the symbol of hope. And he can see himself more as a hero versus how he personifies himself as vengeance. And
you hear him talk about it a couple times during the movie that he's been doing this for 2 years, but the city's worse than ever.
yes,
Like, crime is up. The gangs are more powerful than ever. And yes, they may fear him. They look in the shadows and they see him everywhere. That's awesome. But the situation is not any better for the common person in Gotham. And so you see him having these thoughts throughout the entire movie. And especially when he's struck by what his own father had done, like he's very much saying, is it worth it to do a bad thing, even if you're a good person, if you're trying to do good things? Can that tarnish your entire reputation? There's lots of good thematic signs in this movie.
yeah. I hate to be all topical, but I'm glad you brought that up because I had another thought, in the week or so that's transpired since we've seen this, in that there was a period of probably like 6 months where they stopped production of this movie because of the pandemic. Like, they were filming it for like a month or two before lockdown happened, and then they didn't start filming again until, I think, September 2020. And so part of me wonders if Matt Reeves took that time to look at his script a bit more and was looking at what was happening in the world with, like, the pandemic exposing political and corporate corruption. And I wonder if maybe those things, like, factored into his screenplay, and I wonder if he changed it up a bit to basically show, what if Batman could be the hero in a world that's kind of tainted by all that corruption? What if we could be more like him, and that, those things aren't going to change, and some things are going to get worse now that it's all been exposed, but maybe we could be better than these people,
Well, if he did, then he handled it a lot better than Dark Knight Rises with the Occupy Wall Street attacks on the rich people.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was powerful from that standpoint, but
I really liked it.
And a note I do want to add, thank goodness they kept him as dark, brooding Batman. They didn't do that thing where at the end of the movie, he realizes he does need to lighten up, but he doesn't turn into Superman where he's smiling and joking around with all his friends. Like, he's still very much Batman, but you can tell this all has had an effect on him, and he realizes, yes, I will always be, the monster in the darkness for the evil of Gotham, but I also need to be, the saving angel for the people of Gotham, kind of a thing.
The one kind of building off what you guys just said, the one shot where he's carrying that chick out of the top of the dome, he puts her on the stretcher, and she, like, grabs onto his arm or cape or something and looks him in the eye, and he just looks down at her, and he's like, there's that moment where he realizes, oh, she's not scared of me. I'm the hero. And, like, she starts getting loved. Yeah, it's like you can see it on his face. He's wearing a mask, and he doesn't do any facial expressions, but, like, with his eyes, you can kind of see, oh, I get it. And he, like, holds her all the way until she gets too high and he can't hold her, and then he kind of watches her go up in the helicopter, and you're just like, oh, he gets that he's a hero and not a vengeance monster.
I thought they already started to get there when he helps out that kid. Which, by the way, the movie constantly refers back to the one kid of that guy that gets killed at the beginning. I saw that kid and I called it, that kid's going to be up Robin. Like, he's totally going to be Robin either at the end of this movie or a sequel.
That's not it.
I don't know.
Well, that was me.
Where's the Broom Boy sequel series?
That's what we were looking for all along, Ryan. That was what his trilogy was going to be about. Oh, boy.
Well, top-notch joke.
I'm sorry, Michael.
Well, I'm sorry to put the brakes on you.
Well, putting actual stuff that's leading to a future sequel, that post-credits scene.
It wasn't even post-credits.
Mid-credits. Our good old lovable Joker friend.
Freaking Joker.
That was
Okay.
one thing I could have cut.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agreed.
Okay. Do you mind if I gauge this mini rant real quick?
No.
We don't need more of the Joker. Look.
That's what I said in the Arkham games.
Yes,
he worked in the Arkham games.
Yeah,
Well,
This one,
debatable.
we're already done. You said to me after the movie, you were like, we've done Heath Ledger. nobody's probably going to get that close to being as awesome as Heath Ledger was. We're not going to we just can't. Unless we want somebody to kill themselves again, we can't do that.
I did not say that.
Jeez. Listen to
I
me.
didn't say anything like that.
No, listen to me. Listen. There's a reason that we need to, like, the Joker's been done enough to where it's a top tier performance. We need to explore some other people in the Batverse because he has cool villains while still being in this realistic world.
Like the Riddler. The
You mean
only
the Riddler?
previous film version of the Riddler
Was in the
Jim
Batman
Carrey.
Forever.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, so
We can do a better version of several of those heroes and
Is that all
villains.
Luigi you just did?
No, I was doing Jim.
Dude, we were talking about this, and I said, dude, you know who we could have in the next movie instead of the Joker?
Dude.
We could have Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy, who we haven't seen since Batman and Robin, 25 years. I don't think we need to do the Arnold puns again.
Batman
Use the dinosaurs.
But, like, we
You know
haven't
what
seen
the
that
movie-
for 25 years.
If they add them in, they have to contractually add bat nipples to the bat suit and a bat butt crack.
And also Batman credit card.
Batman
The back credit card. Never leave the cave without it.
Without it. Poor George Clooney.
But, like,
He really got the short end of the stick with that movie.
we could bring them back. We could do the League of Assassins and Ra's al Ghul.
No, we were talking about the court.
Deathstroke.
We were talking about the Court of Owls.
We
That
were talking
would
We
be
could do the Court of
cool.
Owls.
That
We could
would
do
be
Scarecrow.
awesome.
We could do Hush. You could have Killer Croc
They
in there
already-
as a henchman somewhere.
They already did Hush. Hush.
When?
Sorry.
in this movie.
You missed it?
Where was Hush?
Well, it's more of a reference than
No,
a direct
but-
statement.
Oh, you mean Ellie? Yeah, I heard that, but like, where's Hush with bandaged face and setting up the plots? You know, where's the thing
Riddler is
is?
supposed to be that guy.
Well,
Sorry to
yeah,
burst your bubble.
I guess, but my point is, we have all these cool villains, so why do we keep going back to the Joker, who we've seen 4 times now since 2000?
He makes money.
I was gonna say
Why? He's not that interesting.
To the normal person.
Oh, yes, I just said that.
He just dropped a.
Easy.
I just said that. I will not take it back.
Your video just got 20,000 dislikes, Zach. I'm sorry.
60,000 views with a bunch of bad comments on it.
Bunch of angry comments, but I'm
Look.
sticking by that. Because, yes, he
You
is.
want to comment on Harley Quinn as well?
Oh my god.
Harley Quinn. Here's the thing about Harley Quinn.
Cast
There
Margaret.
is something about
Calm yourself. Easy, we get it.
Harley
Stop.
Quinn is a character when she's not set beside somebody. Joker is nothing without Batman. He is not interesting if Batman's not there. So I was shocked when they said
That
they did a
was
solo
interesting.
movie
There's some
with him.
Justice League episodes that disagree with that statement.
When? Where?
Some of the Justice League Unlimited had him being part of the villain crew, and he was plenty good without Batman being involved.
Justice
Listen.
League Unlimited? There was the Bat embargo. They weren't allowed to use Batman characters at the time.
It was Justice League, the first one. But
It did.
yes,
But
listen
Batman
to
was
me.
in that show.
No, but your point has validation. I just hope that they don't use that same actor guy who was in. Especially when he laughed, he was like, whatever his laugh was so bad. Sorry, whoever you are, but that's not the Joker,
Did you not
bro.
see the scene, Zach?
No, I did.
Okay, because you're like really silent.
I'm just listening to you guys, and I'm like, I'm not gonna jump into that.
I'm sorry
Especially how
for
you
drawing.
said that he's not interesting. Joker's plenty interesting.
Joker is interesting, but only when Batman's there too, because Joker cannot exist without Batman. Whereas Batman and Harley Quinn and all the other villains can exist without Joker. So we don't need to keep bringing him into stuff.
And going to the Harley Quinn, I would say that you could watch the Harley Quinn show on HBO Max, but that show's a little much.
Yeah, I've seen clips of it.
Right.
I know
Remember my theory that I told you about my alternate movie, Justin?
No, what was it?
About Harley Quinn? So I was thinking that if this was going to be the first part of the
Oh, I remember
trilogy,
now. I
or
do
whatever,
remember it now.
and you wanted to bring the Joker in eventually, better than Catwoman, it would have been cool to have
I do
Harley
remember
Quinzel
that, yes.
be the female lead of this
Oh.
movie. Yes.
I do remember
Because
that now, yes.
Alfred would probably be trying to force Bruce to go see a therapist somehow. He
Oh.
goes and interacts
That
with
actually would
Harley.
be really interesting.
She does literally everything that Catwoman would do in the movie, like sneaking into the club and getting a hold of finding where this deadbeat cop is. Like, she has connections in the police system. She can do all of the stuff that Catwoman did. And she would be setting up for the potential future with Joker, where the Joker kidnaps her and corrupts her or whatever.
Cool.
I could see that.
That would be cool.
Because there was that whole episode of the Batman animated series, which has many of the references in this movie.
Yep.
Where Harley went on her day free with Batman, and they were almost friends with each other.
I apologize, but now that you said that, I remember why I liked that now. That would have been a cool part of it.
That actually would be a really cool
Instead of Catwoman, who just rides off into the sunset, and we'll see her in the third movie.
Well, now that we've had our moment of
minutes.
throwing out a bunch of
a very long,
Hot
very
takes.
heated discussion where I brought down the wrath of the Batman fan base upon your channel.
You want hot takes? I'll give you a hot take. The soundtrack wasn't that good.
Hot takes and cold
There's a
takes.
difference between hot takes and stupidity.
Get control of this, Zach. Hurry. Get control of this before
All right,
we lose it.
let's end this before it becomes longer than the Rise of Skywalker video.
When it becomes longer than the Batman itself.
There are video essays that are longer than that movie.
Oh yeah,
and
they can do a great job with more time. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but
It's with us, we're going to get sidetracked 15 times.
I will
Zero
say
to
that.
minutes.
That's my
brevity is the soul of wit, though.
my closing statement is this: the movie was really good. It didn't feel like 3 hours to me. I mean, it felt long, but it wasn't 3 hours long to me. And I thought it was cool. I also thought when he was fighting people in the club, that was pretty sweet.
It's not as good as John Wick, but, like, it's close.
Nothing
They
tops
have-
John Wick.
They have wide shots and they don't cut much. That makes
Yes.
and they have a hallway scene.
me happy. And they have a hallway scene.
Freaking goodness, there's no stupid jumpy quick cuts.
I mean, there's a reason why media based on Batman and Daredevil are great, right?
Mm-hmm.
They
For the
have
most part.
cool...
Except for
Amber
the
and I watched the Ben Affleck movie recently, and it was hysterical.
It has some good moments, I'll tell you that. Like when Deadshot, or whatever his name is, Bullseye just throws the paperclip through the guy's forehead. Excellent.
Where's
Classic
this
scene.
the discussion of great superhero cinema? Y'all are sleeping on an underrated gem.
Also, speaking of Catwoman, best movie, Halle Berry.
Hey,
God, we're losing the captain.
Feel like playing
Right the
basketball
ship.
right now.
Right the ship, we're losing it.
Alright.
More hot takes? Let's do hot takes.
Alright.
Right the ship, captain.
anyone have any more closing comments?
I liked it. I had a great time.
I
with the movie.
had-
This was excellent. This was an excellent movie. I'd love to see more of this version of Batman.
Well, we will.
Yes, please, soon. Just don't use the Joker. Let him be a stupid drive-by Easter egg and use an actual good villain that we haven't seen. Well, Joker's good.
Okay.
Joker's good, but please maybe have someone else.
Calm yourself with
Careful.
your bad Joker take.
Careful,
Anyway,
Michael. But, yeah, it was great. It's a movie that I definitely have appreciated more the more that I've thought about it. I want to see it again in theaters. I'll probably take my brother to go see it because he wanted to. And, yeah.
kudos to you for having 3 hours that you can just use on this movie.
It's worth it.
It really is.
Good.
It really is.
Would watch again out of 10.
Yes. Yeah, thank you all for listening to us throw out our piss takes. So we...
He's referring to you, Mike.
Mike, you're gonna get buried by that, dude.
I'm just kidding, Michael. I don't mean to... I'm not throwing shade.
When this video goes posted, there's gonna be anonymous comments. That's a poor Joker take.
That's a clown take, bro.
Here, bro, you drop this, and it's a picture of a clown afro.
Oh, this is gonna be great.
But yes, if you like this video, please feel free to subscribe to the channel and join that notification squadron so you don't miss out on more videos. We'll probably all be talking about the next upcoming masterpiece, classic Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the
2.
Hedgehog.
Sonic 2! Yeah! We're gonna have Knuckles punching everyone through everything he can find.
Idris Elba Knuckles.
Yeah.
I'm more excited for just Jim Carrey.
I know, Jim Carrey.
He had
was the
so
best
much
part
fun
of
in the last
He
movie,
really
and
was.
and the trailers make him look so much more malevolent in this movie. I can't wait.
I'm in. He
It's
landed
gonna
in
be
an egg ship. He's leaning into the Eggman thing.
Chaos Emeralds, like they're going for it.
We're all in on it.
Well, thank you guys for listening, because you're not watching us talk, but I appreciate you listening, and I hope you all have a great day.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
So long.